To lighten the demand for pre-existing MIDI files from old tutorials, here is how to create the effect from Map of the Problematique yourself. For software, I'm using Reaper because it's inexpensive, cross-platform, and easy to use. Any other digital audio workstation with sufficient MIDI capability can do this same effect, but the process will be different. The MIDI is sent through a Digitech Whammy. Not as cheap, but I figure a lot of Muse fans will have this already or will want to. Now let's begin. To connect, you'll need an audio interface with MIDI out, or the cheap option, a USB to MIDI cable. Make sure the Whammy is connected to MIDI out. To help you remember this, think of it as the signal going out of the computer. To give a general idea on how this all works, I'm going to create a small test just to show how the Whammy can be controlled. In Reaper, I'll start by inserting a new track using the menu option, Track, Insert New Track, or the shortcut, Ctrl-T. Leave that for a moment and go into Options, Preferences. In the Audio MIDI Devices menu, find your MIDI device and make sure it is enabled for MIDI output. Then hit OK. Click on the I/O option in the track controls. In the drop-down menu for MIDI hardware output, you should see the hardware MIDI device that you connected earlier. Select it. In my case, as you can see, it's my Scarlett USB interface. Now, hardware detection tends to be the biggest source of error and the step I'm the least able to help with. So you might have to mess around with your connections if your device doesn't show up in the menu at first. Make sure you have this ready though before you move on. In the new track, I'll insert a new MIDI item using the Obvious menu option. Double-click the track to open the piano roll. Set the parameter display in the Events area to 11 Expression. There won't be any actual notes drawn in the piano roll, so feel free to enlarge the Events area like I'm doing. Double-click anywhere in the Events area to draw a new parameter value. You can click and drag this parameter value up and down to increase or decrease its value. The values themselves are numbers from 0 to 127. You can verify this by changing the view to Events List and reading the value. Set the parameter to 127 by dragging it as high as it can go, and set the treadle on your Whammy to the heel position. I currently have it set to 1 octave above. Move the playhead on Reaper to the beginning. Then, let a note on your guitar ring and press play in Reaper. You should hear the following. So what's happening there? The values in the parameters section for expression directly control the treadle position on the Whammy, with 0 as heel down and 127 as toe down. Every position in between corresponds to a value between 0 and 127. Play around with this to get a feel for how it works. If you didn't get an output, go back and make sure you set everything up correctly. With a basic understanding on how this communication works, it's only a small step turning it into map. I'll give you some basic setup. The song is at a constant tempo of 125 BPM. You can set that in the appropriate box. Set the Whammy to 1 octave up or down harmony mode. The parameters in the MIDI track will alternate between 3 states: 0 for 1 octave below, 127 for 1 octave above, and the middle value, 64, for no shift. Side tip, right-click the MIDI event and unlock the option in Item Settings, Loop Item Source, if you want to make your MIDI event longer. Here's my existing project file for map, with the song on a separate track. If I click one of the MIDI events, you can see the alternating values like I mentioned. There's actually a few variations of this sequence throughout the song, so when drawing it out, go through the song bar by bar and see which variation is being played. Don't worry, they repeat a lot. So to put it all together, here's a sample of the final product. There is one final tip, which is that depending on your hardware, you may find that there's a delay between when the MIDI commands are sent out and when they're actually received by the Whammy. If you encounter this, turn off grid snapping, select all your MIDI events, and adjust the events to the left slightly until things line up to your ear. And that is all for now. Thank you for watching.